Colts. I predicted that the Chiefs would win, and they did 23-20. I have to be honest, though, I was absolutely certain the way the game was going that my pick was for naught. But I hung on for dear life over the possibility that the Chiefs would pull it out, and they did. Now, a number of you were saying, wait a minute, you're a Raiders fan. How can you root for the Chiefs? It has to do with the fact that I really admire how Andy Reid has built the Chiefs. That's another story. The question is, how did they win this contest against the mighty Indianapolis Colts, led by Jim Irsay's daughter, who has been a very impressive leader, 43 years old, stepping right into where her father left, sadly left us. But the way the Chiefs did it was, first of all, it was a must-win situation. They were at home, and that crowd was completely amazing. That was the spiritual part, but the intellectual part has to do with the fact that the Chiefs' defense came through with timely blitzes directed by their defense coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, and they held the Colts' great running back, Jonathan Taylor, who racked up almost 300 yards of offense against the Atlanta Falcons the week before in London. Remember that? Held him to just 58 yards rushing and a 3.6 yard average. Wow. 3.6 yards. That's right. 16 carries, 3.6 yards. That's it. That's it. And how did they do it? They played close to the line of scrimmage. They played a good combination of man and zone. They kept everybody in front of them. It wasn't easy. There were a couple of times that Jonathan Taylor did get away. His longest game was for 27 yards. But they really did a great job of keeping everybody in front of them, talking about the Chiefs' defense. Now, offensively, yeah, the Chiefs started off rather rough. And I think something else I have to add that was rankling the Chiefs is the Colts have this unique way of calling play action passes that cause their running backs to, well, they're in the block, right? And they may be the focus of a play action fake, so they're in the block. They execute the run fake, then they stay in the block and they sneak out right underneath. Kind of that old Bill Walsh style of short passing to the running backs, and the running back catches the ball short, gains a lot of yards. That is frustrating to many defenses, and it certainly was frustrating the Chiefs' defense. But the Chiefs decided to go back to what they do best, short passing. It did get them into trouble initially. Remember, and I've said this before, this is something the Chiefs know they're aware of, but they have to really step up and make their play selection more varied and their design more varied, because when they run a glance pass like the one that was tipped and intercepted near the goal line to start the game by the Colts against the Chiefs, that play people expect the Chiefs to run, and they need to have variations of those plays so that what happened doesn't occur. That's a big problem with the Chiefs. There's a lot of sameness in their approach, I think, has gotten them into trouble. But this contest, they were able to eke out with a win by, again, corralling Jonathan Taylor, the Colts' not-so-secret weapon, playing tight defense. This person says, might as well talk about other teams since the Raiders just blank baby. Yeah, I'll talk about the Raiders separately, and it's coaching. The difference between why the Chiefs are doing well and why the Raiders are not comes down to coaching. And I hate to say that with respect to Pete Carroll, who I really like and admire because Pete Carroll is a good listener. But I'm really, 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 really certain about this need the Raiders have, in my opinion, to fire offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. I know a lot of you are down on Geno Smith, but look, no other quarterback has emerged to be better than Geno. Those quarterbacks had their chance preseason, like Aiden. Aiden didn't study the playbook, all right? And he didn't. He got out there, he looked lost. So at least Geno knew the playbook and knew how to study it, at least to run the plays and get them lined up right and everything else. But back to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a better coached team. They really practice offensive innovation. They practice defensive control, effective blitzing. You got to admire their organizational structure and behavior. The Raiders could emulate that. I'll talk about that later more. But getting back to the Chiefs and the Colts. Oh, we know. We just got eyes. I know you have eyes, but I have a mouth. But he says we've got eyes, and But I'm glad you said that. Having eyes doesn't mean always that fans understand exactly what's going on and why things are going wrong. For example, people blame Geno Smith. They don't call for Chip Kelly's head. They need to start calling for Chip Kelly's head. I thought the offense that Chip was going to put on the field was going to be, such that it was a needed counter to the type of innovative approach that the Chiefs under Andy Reid have ran. But it's not that. The formations, it's always what? Okay. Trips in a bunch, left or right, occasional tandem wide receiver setup, and little variation from those, maybe occasional two tight end. That's it. All right. The variations in terms of formations are nil. Okay. And he says Chip definitely has to go. Play calling's terrible. Play design is awful. I'm sorry, it is just atrociously bad, and it's just water torture. Just sit back and watch the Raiders do what they do. It's like, oh, come on, dudes, I can do better. Hire me. All right. So the Raiders have to get better to face the Chiefs, but also the Colts. And the Colts are, even though they lost, the Colts are, I believe, the most impressive organization in the NFL this season. Okay, I really do. I really do assert that. All right, Buccaneers visiting the Rams underway. Pick the Bucs. Don't listen to anybody else. I'm gonna make my video on that next. Pick the Bucs. I'll see you. Bye bye.